Okay, I am back, round two, video two. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that I was teaching in the workshop I just taught last weekend at Delmar Dog, which was super exciting for me. I've been teaching abroad, like workshops in Europe and like my retreats, where I'm able to like go deep with people, which is what I'm really interested in. I love moving with people. I love getting people in their bodies. I love teaching like drop-in classes. I will continue to do that. But being able to like take a group of people and give context and go into the philosophy and give you practices that will actually help to shift things in your life and give you like tools. So good. So I was excited. It's my first one here in Toronto. Hopefully many more. So the theme of the workshop that I was asked to teach was like intentions and manifesting for like the 2019 New Year sort of deal. And I kind of approached it a little bit differently than perhaps some people would. Like, I don't know, like I love tarot cards, love reading those things and pulling cards and, you know, looking up astrology and trying to gauge it and writing things that, you know, my hopes and dreams. But, you know, real life is sometimes we don't know what we want. Sometimes we think we know what we want, but then we get it and we don't actually want it. Or it doesn't give us the sense of fulfillment, the sense of joy, or the sense of meaning that we thought we were gonna get when we like worked our ass off for it. We sometimes feel very lost or feel like we're in a hamster wheel. So how do we work with these things? How do we, you know, what do we do? Fortunately, yoga. There is ways. There are some teachings that are pretty cool. So I'm going to use this copy is not really necessarily the best copy or the best translation, but the Yoga Sutras by Patanjali. Again, not my favorite yoga text, but definitely the most well used, most famous, the one that you're going to learn when you do your teacher training. And there Patanjali kind of outlines the 8 limbs of Ashtanga, the 8 limbs of yoga, the different components of what a yoga practice is and should be. And the first 2 limbs are the yamas, so 5 things that you should not do. And the niyamas is the second limb, which is 5 things that you do. And kind of like the yogi version of the 10 Commandments. However, instead of there being, you know, punishment for fucking up and, you know, there's no like heaven or hell aspect to this, there's just like the practices. And the cool thing that I love so much about them is that when you become a master at some of these practices, or at the practices that they outline, there's like this magical result. It's so cool. Example. Hold on. So the first yama, the first one, the things that you don't do. Ahimsa, so non-violence. And the translation that in this book is, when non-violence in speech, thought, and action is established, one's aggressive nature is relinquished, and others abandon hostility in one's presence. So it's like you become Gandhi. You know, you become such a master of nonviolence in terms of how you are and how you treat yourself and how the world around you and your relationships, that you can like walk into the UN, or you can walk into this like fray, and people will drop their weapons of avarice and malice and just become docile and at peace. It's like pretty cool, where if you really practice nonviolence within your own being, that you could be like this alchemical force out there in the universe that causing people to be more peaceful. I'm like, fuck yeah, do that. That's so good. I love it. But the ones that I want to bring into context in terms of like, you know, navigating, like how do you figure out life, and how do you, like, how would I put that in the context of a workshop for manifestation and intention setting and all of that? Well, one of the niyamas, the things that you do, there's one that's called Santosha, which is the practice of contentment. And the cool thing is when you become a master at the practice of contentment, the practice of being fully content and you know, resting in the bliss, resting in the beauty of the present moment, that you are granted over an unabiding joy and happiness, which teaches you what your heart longs for. It teaches you like what is actually meaningful to you, which is amazing because most of us don't know what we want. We don't know, we think we do. Like, I think we all have done that before. We're like, oh yeah, I like want a relationship with that person, I want this job, and I want this thing, and I want blah, 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 blah. And then we get it, and it's not really, it doesn't give us the sense of meaning that we were seeking. But when you really rest in the practice of contentment, when you become a master at it, then you get to learn what your heart longs for. You get to learn what gives you a sense of meaning and purpose. Whoa, so cool. And the next one, the next niyama, is called tapas. So the fire of determined practice, the like arduous, determined, resilient, like I'm gonna show up for myself, I'm gonna show up for my practice, I'm gonna show up for my life, and I'm gonna do it. Which I think our culture has a lot of, right? Like most of us are workhorses. We get up, like I work all the time. And most of us do that. We like work and we work and we work and we work, but we're working towards things that aren't necessarily meaningful, where we feel like we're on a hamster wheel, or we're exhausted, or we're burnt out all the time. And you know, we're not really getting the results that we were seeking. We're working really hard, but we're not fulfilled, we're not happy. It's because we need to have the first practice. When we learn to practice Santosha, when we learn what our heart really, really longs for, so we learn how to be content in this moment, we rest in the bliss, the beauty of the present moment, then we know where to work. We know where to send our efforts, or place our efforts. So there's people painting outside. There's like scratchy noises if you can hear it. Anyways, so I think that's like a really cool thing where, and the magical result, of course. The magical result of tapas is you get results. When you work hard, you get results. Ding dong. Yeah, so rad, so cool. So how do you put that into action? Like, how do you actually practice that? How do you practice contentment? Like, how do you practice contentment when like actually you don't like your life at all? How do you practice contentment when you don't like yourself? How do you practice contentment when you're in like the shit and the really hard time in life? And you know, I definitely do enough work in terms of like working with people in trauma and working with people in hard situations that the last thing that I'm going to tell you is like, sure, you're in an abusive relationship and you're having a really hard go at life right now, but like, you know, look at the light. You know, anyone who says anything anything remotely like that, give them the finger and then go feel your real feelings, because that is just what's called spiritual bypassing. I'll do another video all about that. It's not what I'm asking you to do. I need you to feel your feelings and really work through the things that you're moving through in your life and like all of that. But aside from that, like we can start to look at, you know, in this moment right now, I'm like looking out the window and I'm seeing like there's just really, really softly fallen snow in between like the branches of a tree, and I can see the stained glass window of a church across from me, and I see the image. I have a statue of the Nataraj, so the Shiva in like the destructo mode. He's kind of right there, and I have my plants, and I'm in a space that makes me feel nice right now, and I can like look and feel the goodness of this moment and the bliss of this moment, the peace of this moment. And it might be just a sip, it might be just a second, but being able to even have a moment of that restfulness, of that joy, of just experiencing the contentment and experiencing the joy of what I'm experiencing right now is enough, and it starts to like saturate. And you know, it's not likely that in this moment, looking at snow and the statue in my home, that I'm gonna all of a sudden have an epiphany of what my life's purpose is and what my heart really longs for. But it will start if I continue to practice it, bit by bit, continuously trying my hardest to find the beauty, finding the joy and the bliss of the present moment without spiritually bypassing, while still feeling my real feelings. I will begin to start becoming the master of that practice, and I'll start to learn little bit by little bit of like what gives me joy, what gives me meaning, what fills me with a sense of bliss. And when I start to get like a hint of that, like a little taste, a little flavor, I'm able to put my work towards it. I'm able to work towards having more moments where I'm able to look at the softly falling snow. I'm able to spend more time and put my effort and time and energy into things that are really fulfilling and really meaningful to me. So that's a pretty amazing practice. And then one more teaching that I'm going to give that is definitely correlated with this one is actually from Buddhism. So a Buddhist like tenets, so like one of the like core sort of things about Buddhism is they believe in like the inherent goodness of human, of like, you know, Buddha nature they call it, that you're already awakened, you're already enlightened, you're already everything that you've ever needed to be, and it's not a matter of acquiring, it's a matter of remembering and like stripping away the veils of forgetting. And one practice that oh, they're really scratching out there. One practice that Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, who's a Tibetan teacher, again, a little problematic in terms of like his past, but like there's, you know, one of the many fallen gurus out there. But one practice that he gave that I do definitely appreciate, and I will speak it here, is that one way to connect to and remember, come into like a brief moment of remembering of that inherent goodness of like your Buddha nature, is to what Lee Loswick calls taking a moment to recognize the seemingly mundane but overwhelmingly exquisite moments in your life. So it's like the softly falling snow coming down outside my window. It's, you know, waking up in my crisp sheets. It's, oh, the smell of my first cup of coffee. It's, you know, being able to sit with my friend, and it's the soft fur of my pet. It's the embrace of my child. It's the loving gaze of my mother. It's the bus rolling up the exact moment that I need it to. It's the seemingly mundane moments of our life that we tend to not really appreciate, but overwhelmingly exquisite, that we actually do take a moment and like, whoa, here I am in my space, in my room, and I'm experiencing all these really beautiful things that I normally just take advantage of, that I like, and it goes over my head and I don't even take, you know, I don't notice. And then when I do, all of a sudden my life transformed from one of monotony, one of going from one of these big moments of heightened experience, be it positive and negative in terms of how I view it, to like an entire life of beauty, an entire life of joy, an entire life of like, even though you're going to experience a lot of challenges and a lot of heartbreak and a lot of like, I don't know, like getting really triggered. I was super triggered yesterday. That you're still able to live an extraordinary life, a really beautiful, beautiful life. So, what I leave you with is for 2019, if you feel lost, or if you feel like you're in a hamster wheel, if you feel like you don't know where to go or what to do or who to ask, if you don't know, if you just don't even know, a really, really powerful practice is right now, in this moment, even as you're listening or watching this video, to like look around and try to find the seemingly mundane but overwhelmingly exquisite moments. Like, what is beautiful around you right now? What even gives your body a sense of joy right now? So like, find something that makes you feel good right now and feel it in your body. Feel it in yourself. And then when slowly that begins to saturate, like your little tea bag, start to put work in. I think the universe responds to two things: intention and momentum. Thank you. I'll see you soon.